Hi everybody, welcome to a morning with Cathy and Renee, and I'm Ruth. We're doing a topic today, vital lessons for church planting wives from the front lines. So I'm hoping that we're all going to have an enjoyable time just listening to these lovely ladies talking.
Lovely.
We've got our cups of tea, so you grab yours, and let's just take some time out to think about big picture and lessons that they've learnt. Before we go on, I'd just like to thank our sponsor for the webinars. It's EA Insurance. So if you have any insurance needs for your church or yourself, they'd be a great place to start looking for that. And we'd like to answer your questions if you've got some today. So if you click on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll be able to find a place where you can write your questions and send them in to us so that we can interact with you as well. So I'll start by introducing Cathy and Renee, so Cathy Tucker and Renae Godden. These two lovely ladies have both been involved in church planting, so we'll just start by getting to know you a little bit. So Cathy, tell us who's in your family.
Craig and I are empty nesters, so we've been married almost 30 years and the kids both moved out in the last 18 months. So that's been a lot of change for us. Right. So Sophie lives in Perth with her husband and Luke lives in Sydney with his wife.
Right. Wow. So that's a big change when they're going.
Yeah, and then the dog died.
Oh.
Yeah, like that's so funny. Like,
no, it is awful.
No, there's heaps of change. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so you've been involved in church planting. So where have you done that and where you're at?
Yeah. We're coming back for our third church plant. So. We started off in Blacktown, which is Sydney's outer west, and we were there for 11 years. Then we moved to Sydney's inner west at Drummoyne, and we were there for 14 years. And now we're having a crack at church planting in the centre of Sydney, and we're just at that messy kind of trying to gather a launch team, having millions of cups of coffee with people. It's actually quite expensive taking people out for coffee all the time. But yeah, we're at that kind of phase and hoping to do a soft launch in the beginning of September.
Okay, so yes, it's coming soon.
Yeah.
Right. And Renee, who's in your family?
I'm married to Dan, and we've got 3 girls. So August, who's 7, Brooklyn, to think for a second.
Oh, middle child.
Oh, poor Brooklyn. No, Brooklyn is 5, and Noelle is 3.
Can I say excellent names?
Thank you. We really do like our names,
Excellent.
and not too weird.
No, but they're just creative. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So church planting, where are you?
So we're in Wollongong, so our south of Sydney. So Dan and I were at the Central Coast for a few years. That's where he grew up. And then in the beginning of 2012, we moved down to start church.
So he grew up on the Central Coast?
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
Sydney, around Hornsby kind of area.
Okay.
I'm a Sydney girl.
Okay, so it's a new place for both of you.
Yeah, which was really good. Kind of we're both starting afresh and exploring it together, which is good. Helpful.
All right, and we'll come back to some more positive things about it, but just, Cathy, I'll start with both of you, but I'll start with you. Tell us something, or 3 things that were particularly challenging in that first stage of planting. So you've got 3 to pick from, I guess, 3 plants.
You could do 9.
I reckon the thing that I met my emotional memory of is the early stages of church planting at Blacktown. Just after we finished college, we'd been married less than a year. Was just I was angry all the time. Craig actually said later that there were times when I'd go out in the car and it would cross his mind, is she going to come back? I was angry a lot in those early stages.
Was that just because it was everything new, or what was it that made you feel so angry?
We ended up going to counselling, and I think part of it was, I think because I was young, I felt like I had to prove to someone, myself, I don't know who I thought was watching, but I had to prove that I was competent. And so everything that needed to be done, I would jump in and do, and then I'd be really hacked off that I was doing everything.
Yeah.
And also I think there was a dynamic that we kind of worked out through counselling, that there were times when if Craig was under pressure, he'd think, Kath will do it.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, and I didn't.
You're saying yes to everything, and then he's saying.
And then I'm resenting
yeses.
it, and he's kind of unwittingly putting me under the pressure. And like in the counselling, he said, but you've got the freedom to say no. But I didn't feel the freedom because I was wanting to be competent.
Yeah.
And then he felt terrible that he'd been putting that pressure on me. I mean, it was just dumb stuff like, you know, so-and-so was meant to do the photocopying, but they're sick, or they forgot, or they're just hopeless. Do you know, like, would you do it?
Yeah.
Do you know, like, and now I'd go, nah. Do you know? But then I'd go, oh, yes, it's 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday, of course I'll do the photocopying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was really furious inside.
Right, yeah.
And not thinking, is this normal? I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
I reckon there's two great things out of that. One is that if you need to, go and talk to someone else about it. That helps you.
It took us so long to actually get to that point, because Craig was keen to go to counselling, but I felt that was failure.
Yeah.
So I put that off for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it sounds like the other thing is to learn to say no when you need to. So work
It's
out what
so
you need to
hard
say
though,
no
isn't
to.
it?
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
And there's just so much to do.
But also it's God stuff. Do you know, like, I think if it was a dentist and he said, do you want to come help me? I'd go, no, do it yourself. But it's kind of like, especially when it's important stuff, you kind of think, do I say no to this person that wants to read the Bible with me? Yeah, but I'm getting better at kind of having to say to God, if you want that done, you're going to have to get someone else to do it.
How long do you reckon that kind of lasted for, in terms of
being really angry?
Yeah.
Oh, months. Yeah, months. So probably, I reckon probably at least 18 months. Kind of was getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then we probably had 6 sessions of counselling or something, and I think it dawned on us, this is the dynamic, like, you know.
Yeah.
But it's still something I need to be aware of, because my thing is I want approval and I want to be seen as competent. So that just presses all my buttons.
Yeah. Did it help that there were more people kind of stepping up into leadership, like to ease your or not quite?
Yeah, getting into the heart of my weirdness right in the first couple of minutes is going to be great. So the only ways down from this point. Oh, thank you so much, Renee. No, because the problem is that as each church plant grows, it's a relief when other people step into it, but then they're taking away the way that I get my jollies from feeling confident.
Yeah.
And if you're a good trainer, you're always going to give away stuff to someone else to do, and you therefore get still stuck with the stuff. Because I thought, oh, once the church plant grows, I'll get to do my fun stuff.
Yeah. Because
I'll divest myself of the stuff that I've been doing that I'm not very good at. But my experience is I've often still ended up with the thing that I'm not very good at.
Yeah.
Because someone else has come out of the woodwork who's good at doing that. You think, oh, I really need to train up them and train up them to train up others, blah, blah, blah. And so you're still doing that thing that you're really crummy at. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
But I think I'm getting better at it slowly, but I'm aware of it this time, that if I feel myself starting to get a bit angry, I think, oh, I wonder what's going on for me underneath, rather than just pushing it out to it's somebody else's fault. Do you know?
Yeah.
So were there any other challenges?
Starting time? I think each time, this is going to sound bad, but the challenge is being married to Craig. That sounds awful. But he's like, my guess is most church planters are, and maybe a lot of the wives are too. Just that sense of always looking to the next horizon.
Right.
Do you know, like, so I'm thinking, cool, I'm just learning to cope with where we're at. Let's just stay here for a while. Whereas that's the point where Craig goes, excellent, we can push it to the next bit of the hill. I just find that really exhausting, because that's not my personality. I wouldn't have left either of the church plants, because I would have thought, oh, it's safe, I'll just stay.
Yeah.
Do you know, like...
I was just thinking that, and yet you're on to your third.
Yeah, so I think if I'd married someone who was very safe and didn't have big horizons, maybe my world would have got smaller. So I see it as a great kindness of God that it's challenged my character to be bigger. But gee, I find that exhausting. And when Craig comes home and kind of like, got this really cool idea, I think, oh, really?
Breathe.
Yeah.
Right, where are we going?
And so part of it for me this time is thinking, I don't have to get excited about everything Craig's getting excited about. Yeah. And I don't have to be the solution to every problem. And but I think at the beginning, because I was still working out, we'd only been married such a short time, just keeping up with his energy levels I find hard. He doesn't need much sleep as I do.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's a
all
huge
that
thing
kind of
to be
stuff.
married in the first year and planning a church.
Yeah.
To get to know each other.
Do you find it hard? Like, is Dan a kind of horizons kind of guy? How do you handle that?
I feel like I've gotten more used to it over the years, and so I kind of expect it more, but know that we're not about to rush out the door the next day. So it's kind of he's the dreamer. And I used to be a bit of a dream squasher, but I've tried to learn to let him continue to dream and then slowly.
So how do you squash?
Oh, like he'll say, "Let's do this," and I'll go, "Oh, I don't know about that. We've got to think about
there
this,
are 6 reasons why that
this,
won't work.
this."
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas I feel like in being kind and loving to him, I've learned to dream a little bit more with him. Dream out here, and then know that we'll have to come and do some digging down and stuff. So but yes, that's still a little bit hard when he comes home and says, "Right, we're going to plant a church here, or we're going to start this new ministry." Or Oh, really?
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
I think the other thing, sorry to point at you rudely, I'll try not to do that, is the whole busy patch. You know, we're just in a busy patch. Like the whole my life feels like I'm in a busy patch, and so.
And then just even more busy.
Yeah. And so I think to kind of not be tricked into thinking it's just a busy patch, but to think, no, this is actually the new normal, and to kind of work out what am I capable of that's sustainable, rather than thinking I'm really going to push it hard in this early stage because it's going to calm down later. But to kind of go, no, this probably is the new normal, and I can't survive doing these things. Which feels really selfish, but I kind of think it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if it's just this series of sprints, I just can't keep up. And I think that's when I do start to get angry and tearful, and I do that thing where I want to be low maintenance because that would make it easier for Craig. And when I'm low maintenance, I just suck it up and suck up the busy patch. But then I just go ballistic and weep and yell and so I flip-flop between low maintenance and totally psycho. And so I'm trying to get into a patch where I can kind of say, that's exciting that you want to do that. Cool, I'm actually going to do some crochet, you know, like, and not feel guilty about that. And so have less weepy, hissy fits.
And I reckon too, I know that we found that it takes a little while to get into a bit of a rhythm in terms of knowing what the year is going to look like. And like we've always found that like there's like conference month, which is like stands out. Like we're kind of in the middle of it now, but it's like, all right, he's going to be away. Like, you know, for 3 days here and then 4 days over there, and so.
And in the middle of winter, everyone gets sick, and you've got to step up. And
And so I think, like this year, and I feel like I've been able to help our other wives who are married to staff members, kind of going, all right, June is going to be a hectic month. Like here are the dates where all the husbands are going to be away. So just to kind of get you prepared and so you can guard your days off and the weekend, like so that you can actually
when you have your holidays.
So it's been, I feel like that's taken a few years to kind of get. Like, and that's always going to change from year to year, but there is a there's a little bit of a pattern to the year. So you can predict when should we take holidays, when is the conferences, and when's the big mission events or whatever, so that you can actually work out, all right, I'm going to be great here, and I'm going to be.
But it's not the time to take on new stuff in that time.
Totally. And it's okay that the kids can just watch TV for a few days just to kind of get through and be sane at the end of it.
So Renee, what challenges did you find in the first stage of planting?
I feel like for us, because we moved to Wollongong and it was such a new place for us, we were very excited. Like we were excited about a new place.
Did you already have babies at that point?
We had 2. So August was 2 and Brooklyn was 2 months.
When you moved house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did the start a new job, move to a new area, move to a new house, like all in the space.
So we know when the GP does the 200 stress points, you're already there.
We're up there.
Yeah. Okay.
You both were box out of it.
So it was like we were excited and so that was good. I think the biggest thing through that first year in terms of kind of like there was stuff with church which is challenging, but I think kind of separating our new life with our old life, and not that they were like kind of cut in half, but I think our family struggled a little bit to kind of adjust with us being in a new area.
You mean your birth family, like
yeah, like our
grown-ups?
extended family. And people who wanted to come and visit us from home, and so I can remember kind of people sending messages, can we come and stay with you this weekend and come and visit church? And it was kind of like, yes, but I really want to be meeting new people at church, not having to look after the friends who are like, we'd love to see them, but it was this tension between, we love you, but we actually want to be keen and
you haven't got energy to maintain the old and start the new. I think that's why missionary societies sometimes say you're not allowed to go visit missionaries in the first year.
Yeah, well,
do you know, because they need them to bed down in the new. Yeah.
And I think it, like, everyone was kind of adjusting, but I do remember, like, it was very difficult to feel like we had to, like, owe people. Like, people were messaging us and family saying, can we come down, can we come and see you? And we're kind of like, oh, all right, when can we fit you in, and that kind of stuff. We found if we were a bit more proactive, so kind of looked it out, we had this massive calendar on the wall and kind of shaded out like holidays and events and that kind of stuff, and went, all right, in 5 weekends, we've got this weekend free, so there we can have, family come down, or we can have these friends come down, or...
Have you got a high capacity to keep a whole lot of relationships on the ball at once?
Or I could do a lot better, but...
No, I'm not saying set the bar high, but like in terms of, do you enjoy spending time with people, or is it draining?
It depends on the people.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, I feel like that first year, there were lots of people who wanted to spend time with us, but we couldn't really reciprocate as much, because we had people we had to invest in and new people to meet and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like that was probably a big point of tension, and so the more that we could be proactive rather than reactive, we seemed to do better with, but we still have massive arguments about whether we were going to go up to the Central Coast for a party or,
So maybe if you were able to think about that before together, and then actually even tell some people that this is probably what it's going to look like.
And we just didn't realise that that's what would happen. I mean, people care about us and they love us and they wanted to see us. But I think that was one thing, moving into an entirely different area. It was kind of like, we did have our old friends and our family and trying to explore into this new world, and it was just hard when those two kind of clashed. So,
because I think it is high intensity in the early stages, because you're thinking we really do need to use every available minute to have coffee with people and get to know people and get the kids bedded down in little athletics and and so I just don't feel like I've got the capacity to maintain heaps of friendships from the past and do that investment in moving forward into the future.
That is a hard. And I mean, maybe it depends on where you are and where you've gone and all that kind of stuff, like how far away you are.
But also I reckon if you're a massive extrovert and you get energy from people, then you're going to hang out with people to suck energy out of them. I'm an introvert, and so if I know that I've got to have coffee with a whole lot of people, I've really got to pace myself for that, because I go home exhausted.
And our thing was not only that it was just like, a 2-hour lunch or something, it was like a weekend, because people would come and stay. So that kind of had to be factored into it. And often because, like, Dan might have had a meeting, and so I'd be entertaining at home
with tiny babies.
That kind of, that was particularly, I reckon, a bit challenging the first year.
Were there other ones, other challenging?
I think we were pretty good for the first year. I don't know, we just found, I think we were so keen to, like, here is a unique opportunity, like the first year or so. And so we would explore, like we would go driving, we would, turn up to like the library and say, I'm new to the area, what is going on here? And so there was actually a lot of, we there's lots of fun things to do, and so I don't think it was. And because we also had brought two other couples with us, so we had people to explore with and to kind of discover new areas with, and
built-in kind of comrades.
Yeah. And so the other things which, like, you know, like loneliness or feeling like isolated from our old life, like I think that was still there, like, you know, kind of glimmers of it. But I think because we're all busy, we're all trying to do, you know, start getting church off the ground. There was just no time to be, I guess, see the negative things. I don't know, to some degree.
So you talked two couples into moving house.
Yeah.
With what? So they'd moved from.
Yeah, we had one couple from the Central Coast.
Yeah.
And one couple from Sydney.
At the moment, one of my scary things is, and I remember it from both the other times, is, you know, like when you're inviting people to be part of a church startup, but you don't know whether it's going to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of think, okay, I'm willing to do that adventure.
Yep.
But in asking somebody else to leave their known, I kind of feel like I want to be able to, like, offer them some kind of certainty, and you can't. But you weren't just asking them to change churches. Like, did you feel the pressure of, by thinking, oh no, like it's down to me to make sure the church works, and like, did you feel any of that? Or
yes, and a little bit, but I feel like once we started talking to these couples, they were like, yeah, this is a good thing to do.
Okay,
like,
so you didn't twist their arms.
No.
Like, they were up for it. Okay, yeah.
I mean, you know, we talked to a fair few couples.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of, I'm not sure, maybe not, and they all had different things that they had to wrestle with, whether they would say yes or no.
Yeah, okay.
But these two couples in particular, they, we'd been in church with one couple for a number of years, and they'd been in, like, we'd all been in leadership together and doing ministry together. And the other couple, they had been leading our summer mission, and so we'd spent
You knew how each other rolled, and they knew what they were getting themselves in for.
Yeah. So I think there was already a lot of known what it would look like, doing church together and serving together.
Yeah.
And they were all at times in their life where they were happy to move and look for new jobs. Or jobs were transferable, or which I think probably helped a lot.
I think I was so fearful of that it wouldn't fly. I reckon at Blacktown, I was just so desperate for people to join. I reckon I wasn't as judicious as I could be in terms of saying, like, are you really the right person for this? Is this really the right thing for you? I think this time around, I'm less fearful of it not flying. Do you know, like, and so I think I'm being a bit more kind of, you can be part of it if you are really wanting to be on with our mission and our values, and rather than, oh, cool, you've got 2 arms and 2 legs and you don't hate Jesus, come and be part of it. Do you know, like, so I think at Blacktown I was so fearful and needy. I was probably too quick to kind of like, and whereas this time I think it's, no, we've got a good plan. I'm not going to be too quick to grab whoever comes along as an insider. You know?
And whether it flies or not is God's sovereignty, isn't it? Because whether it does or doesn't, it's God is still God.
Yeah.
But when you're desperate and you grab people that maybe aren't best suited for it, and it's not going to be the best thing for them, or they're really not aligned with the mission because of my lack of confidence that God will grow it, I think I ended up white-anting it in some ways.
So tell us some of the positive things in those early years.
Getting counselling. Yeah. I think that was really good, even though I hated doing it. I think looking back, I'm really glad that Craig persisted in us doing that. I think that was really important. Hanging out with fellow church planters was good. Back in the day, stuff like Geneva didn't exist, so Multiply didn't exist. So we just hung out with 2 or 3 other couples who lived reasonably close to us who were doing similar things. But it really was us, I think, without insulting them, I think it was us bumbling along together. We didn't really have people ahead of us, and there wasn't much theory about how to do it. So I think we all fell in holes that we didn't need to. So this time I'm loving the fact that I've got a coach for the first time. I love the fact that I can feel safe and tell her stuff. I didn't have that before. So I think this time is quite
So
different.
that's a coach through Geneva.
Yeah. So, and that's like, I'm not saying that as a plug for Geneva. It's just I didn't have that first or second time through, and it takes a lot of energy to keep up with other people.
Yeah.
Whereas a coach just rings you up and you kind of think, oh, I've got an hour just to talk about myself. How fun is that? You know. Whereas I think the first time we sought out other couples, but it's nice to have that non-reciprocal relationship, because every other relationship with your first church planting, you feel like you're giving out. Do you know, like, it's so nice to feel like there's a grown-up in your world that you can just be needy with.
Yeah, and they get it. They understand.
But they push you hard.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, but it feels safe as well. And I love the fact that, like, I don't really have to care about her life. It feels so nice. I love that. I don't ask her questions about her life. It's all about me.
And because like church is often so the opposite. Like, you have to know everything about everyone else, and like, so it's.
A friend described to me, she said, not as a church planter, but as a women's worker in a church, she said, I'm just tired of being the grown-up.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, why am I the one that turns up with 3 sick kids? Because all these other women have just put a hair appointment on, and therefore they can't be there to do their thing at playgroup. And she just felt like she was always the grown-up. And I thought, I remember that feeling of just thinking, you know, like picking up the pieces when other people, and being a bit resentful of that.
So Renee, what about you? Positives from that early stage?
It was exciting having a clean slate. Like, I think because of the stage of life we were in, we had back up on the Central Coast, we had our set group of friends, we had the activities that we would do, and so because we moved to a completely new area, it's like I had time that I could kind of go, all right, what am I actually going to...
Oh, because you dumped everything else. You just choose your own adventure.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, you know, the things that you kind of find yourself happen to fall into because of where you are or whatever you're doing. But to kind of go, I've got, this blank slate, what am I actually going to invest my time into? And
so you made that a positive rather than...
And so it was like, all right, I've got small children, it's probably good to join a play group.
Because it's logical, it's what you'd be doing anyway.
That's right, and I'm going to be there for, this number of years, so it's probably good to invest in the people that are there. And
I like that. I've been thinking, it's in a sense it's the opposite of going to an established church as the next pastor. Like, that terrifies me. Like turning up to a church of 100 and thinking I don't get to choose how I invest in order for the mission to go forward in terms of reaching non-Christians. If already there's 17 different things that are running that I have to be aware of. Which ones do you give the bullet? Which one? I reckon that would be so hard to think. And I can see that's why church planting does move forward in terms of evangelism, because you're not running 16 things that maybe should get killed off. Did you find it hard to choose which things to do though?
I think a lot of it had to do with stage of life. So we had toddlers, and so it was kind of like, I need to occupy my time during the day so I don't go crazy. But then, so like I had lots of daytime time to kind of fill and keep us occupied and all that kind of stuff. But then we had lots of nighttime meetings and weekend kind of social, getting to know people and all that kind of stuff. So I found it a great opportunity to kind of re-choose what I wanted to do with our life in a new area.
So if we move on to the next stage of church planting, where you're hoping and praying that it'll grow and change, that's the whole point of planting the church. But then most of us, especially women, I don't know what it seems like, we often have trouble with change. So how did you deal with that? Did you find that a challenge as the church grew and changed?
Look, I've got a really kind of fraught relationship with change. I reckon it's a relief. It's been a relief for me each time when we've grown from, say, 12, because both times we started with tiny, tiny groups of like 12, 14 people. It was a huge relief to be able to pass on some things that I was really bad at and also to feel like I wasn't an insider onto everything. So I wasn't the person that Craig would come home with the crazy scheme to, that he'd started to talk to other people about his crazy schemes. That was a huge relief. But there was that feeling of, I now have less influence, I have less control. And so it's a real double-edged sword in terms of, you know, and the first time you hear a stupid thing announced in church where you think, if someone had asked me about that, do you know what I mean? Like, and you kind of think, cool, it's not my problem, you know, but on the other hand, so I think Craig's has been really good at us continuing to work through how do we still talk about things that it's helpful for me to know about, but are there things that I don't need to know about because it just stresses me out. So very early on, we kind of decided, after all of the aggro at Blacktown, that it was actually unhelpful for Craig to tell me all of the things that were going on that were emotionally charged. I know of other women who find it really helpful to know because they feel like that helps them to feel like they are in control of and they're not. Whereas I loved being able to walk up to someone and say, oh, hi, you've had your hair done, it looks really lovely, and they go like that. And I think, oh, there must be something going on in the background. And 6 months later, I find out that there's been something going on in the eldership. But it's lovely not knowing for me.
Okay. And what about you, Renee? Is it the same?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like there's this tension between, like, I'm the kind of person that wants to know.
Oh, do you? Oh, I'm still the opposite.
But
why do you want to know?
Because that way I know what's going on. I know what I'm a part of. I know.
Okay.
Would you not cope with that? Or what was that look about type of thing where you're going, oh, I don't know what that was? I
feel like, I mean, I know I don't know everything. And I have learnt that there are probably some things that I don't need to know about. So, like, I think that is still true. But what I've found is that people are assuming I know more than what I necessarily do. And so we'll say, oh, yeah, you know, like, I talked to Dan about the decision about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I've got no idea what you're talking about. And should I know? Should I not know? Is it helpful for me to know? Yeah, so I think I prefer to know more than know less. Just so that I can be aware of the landscape. Kind of go, okay, this is where we're heading, or this person, you know, is not doing this ministry for this reason, or or these people are new to church, and this is kind of their story. And
we once had a newcomers afternoon tea, and you know, like we're talking about what we stood for and what our values were and blah, blah, blah. And I spoke up and said, oh, la, 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 this is how it runs. And afterwards Craig went, that's used to be what we do. Do you know, like, but we've actually shifted away from that way of doing it. You know, we now do it that way. And, that I did feel out of the loop with that. But I still think emotionally I cope better knowing less and just knowing what I can influence. But that's interesting that you don't function well.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the type of information too. Like if I do find it hard to disengage from, like, hard stuff. So if someone's written down a hurtful email, I do take that on, but I kind of think I'd rather know than not know. I think I deal better if I know that this person was unhappy.
So because you can war game how to respond.
Rather than kind of be oblivious and treat, you know, the situation or treat the people.
And unwittingly make it worse or...
But I think that's a skill. I think you need to work hard at being able to be aware but disengage.
And not driven by it, because otherwise you end up with Mr. Potato Head. Do you know, like, and it's their issue becomes the thing that sets the tone for everything. And I think because I respond emotionally to stuff, maybe that's why it works well for me, because I do listen to the squeaky wheel.
I've got a question. So how do you deal, I'll just read it. How do you deal with the guilt of not being able to welcome all the new people at church as you grow and keep up with the old members? So you can't welcome everybody and keep up with the old members. How do you? Because you can't do both when it's getting bigger.
I think for me, we had Andy. He was one of the couples. him and his wife Karis came, and he, from the very beginning, one of his roles was kind of membership, so helping people connect in well, and so he's got amazing ability to remember like people's names and faces, and so there was a little bit of there wasn't as much pressure from me, like that I felt that I had to remember everyone that came through the door, because I knew that there was Andy and kind of the rest of our team who were working hard at that as well. But we had, for a few years, we called it Newish, which was like a newcomers night, and that would be in our house every month. And so there was a really nice opportunity to meet, like we met everybody who kind of wanted to join church. And as the years kind of went on, it was difficult to maintain that ministry as well as all the other kind of ministries that we'd started to be involved in. So Dan and I stopped having that in our home, and it moved to Andy and Karis's home. And so they kind of had that first port of call, but it was actually it was much better knowing that there were people who were much better at connecting and getting to know new people than having that responsibility all on myself. I mean, I feel like I still see people around the church and I think I've heard names kind of thrown around, but I'm not sure, is that couple or is that couple? And I think it still means I still try and sit next to someone new every week and try and get to know them and try and go, have we met before? I'm not sure. I'm Renee, and they'll say, oh yeah, you're married to Dan, or we do this awkward little thing for 5 minutes where they say, have you been coming to church for very long? And I say, yeah, I've been here from the beginning. And they say, oh, that's good. And at some point I have to go, yeah, I'm married to Dan. He's the pastor of the church. But
I think I have felt that guilt, partly because both of the church plants started small and stayed small for quite a long time. They didn't go gangbusters really fast. And so it was quite an intimate little gathering for a long time, where you were sitting on someone's floor, changing nappies, you know, like very intimate. And then I think there's that gear change where you do get to be a bit bigger. I think part of it is, and I think it's one thing that Craig does well, is speaking publicly about the gear changes. In terms of we're moving to the next phase where you're not going to know everyone. There's some pain in that. So actually talking to the insiders about part of being on mission with us is we used to be this gathering where everyone knew each other and we remembered birthdays and we prayed in church about intimate things like your budgie's sick. And now there's going to be a gear change to that. At newcomers kind of afternoon teas, we talk about, yep, you're in our house for this, but we probably won't be your friends. Do you know, like being really kind of really clunky and upfront with it. But yeah, I think I did feel that guilt at Blacktown and at Drummoyne in terms of I used to know you really well and there was grief in that. And having to actually have coffee with someone and say part of the great joy is that God has grown our church, but that means we're not going to be able to meet every week, are we? Do you know, like, and some people handled that well and other people were really hacked off. Do you know, like, and that does... Oh, you think, oh, that really hurts. And there were people that left church when we grew to the next stage, which apparently in terms of the theory is to be expected because some people that got on board when you were 30 don't like the fact that you're 70 now. And I think, yeah, you feel guilty and sad, but you kind of think, nah, in terms of the theory, this is exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah, that's right.
But, so what were some things that you found helpful to cope with challenges at that growing kind of stage? So...
I think seeing myself not as a doer but as a trainer. So, and I think it's no surprise that the conference is called Multiply, because I think in the early stages you just have to do. So I remember being up front holding a baby, singing. Do you know, like that kind of? But to move to that thing of I'm not just a doer, or finding someone to replicate me, but finding people and multiplying it so that I train someone to train someone to train someone, and to be really conscious about that. And so finding joy in my startups being taken on by somebody else rather than resenting the fact that I worked so hard on that evangelistic playgroup that struggled for 2 years and now I've trained up a bunch of women to run it and it's gone gangbusters and no one says, yay, wasn't Cathy clever thinking that up? Do you know, like it's, oh, isn't Barbara amazing? And you kind of go, yay, God, you know.
And I reckon there's probably, for me anyway, like letting go of things sooner rather than later. Like, if holding on to certain ministries or roles for too long, I think it's more difficult to let go, or see that perhaps there's another person who can actually do this much better than I can. And I can actually move on to something else.
I reckon as women we're the gatekeepers, and if we're insecure, that's the thing that actually slows stuff down. It's one of my hobby horses.
Yeah, because that's where I find my value, or that's where people want to come and talk to me about.
And I'm central, and I know about that miscarriage first.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, there's that point where you kind of think, I hear through the grapevine that this thing has happened to someone, and you can either feel guilty or angry, or you go, cool, she's got that, I don't need to, you know, but that's so hard. When in the early stages you think, I'm the one that would make the casserole and I would be at the bedside. But yeah, we're never going to, the church is not going to outgrow me if I think I need to be the one making the casserole.
Yeah.
Do you know, like?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So we have another question.
Another question?
Have any of your teams employed a women's worker? And if so, do you then step back, and how do you work well with her?
No. No. Oh, yes. No. Somewhere in there.
And are you doing that kind of role, is the other part of that?
I guess the way that we've kind of structured SALT, so we don't have a specific women's worker. We do have women on staff, but they take different ministry roles. We follow the purpose model, ministry model.
I don't know what that means, but keep going.
So we have 5 different areas of church Christian life, and we kind of staff according to those purposes. And so we have 2 women who are employed on staff at the moment. One is MTS, and one is an administration manager. And so they don't specifically take a women's worker type role, but they're doing different ministry in church. I personally do a whole bunch of different ministries. One of them is under the maturity ministry, working with our small group leaders of our 6 o'clock gathering. So I guess the way our church is structured is slightly different. So yeah, we don't have a employed women's worker as such, but we do have women on staff and in high capacity ministry positions. Yeah. That makes sense?
Yeah, we've always employed women who've done very similar roles to me, and I think some of the things that have made that work is Craig and I have talked heaps about who that person would be, and in a sense, even though I'm in no way their boss, because it's not that weird, neither fish nor fowl, you know, like I'm not their boss, I'm married to their boss, and so we have to have an excellent working relationship. We need to trust each other to the death, and very much I was involved at each point with each of the women when they were involved, employed, in terms of she needed to be willing to work with me and I needed to be willing to work with her.
Because part of a church planning team.
And so Craig would say, I'll be meeting with this female staff worker weekly, as well as meeting at staff meetings, which I always chose not to be part of because I think I wasn't actually a staff member at that point, because I wasn't willing for Craig to say, Cathy, I need that done by close of business Wednesday. Do you know, like, and if I'm not willing to do that, do you know, like, then I don't think I have the right to be at staff meetings unless I was willing to actually be told what my you know, and be put on for first warning. And Craig would say that he would meet with female staff workers weekly, as he met with the male staff workers weekly, but he would never pray with them. And if they needed somebody to talk to, that would be me. So I would basically meet with each of those staff workers fortnightly or whatever we wanted to do, but I would pray with them because Craig figured that was a very intimate thing to do with a female staff worker. But we very much had each other's backs and talked with each other about when things were getting tricky, and because I figured my job was to be like her wingman, but her job, and that was interesting, like I can think of 3 of those women and our relationship has really flourished after she'd finished the role and gone on to other things, because we were doing that interesting thing of, yes, we're friends and yes, we're co-workers, but he's my husband and he's your boss. There are lots of no-go areas, and we actually had to speak explicitly about what things would we never talk about. And again, it was very conscious in terms of we won't talk about this, this, or this, and we've now got the freedom to, and that's lovely. And they've become lifelong friends, but it was a cautious, you know, trusting relationship, but it was very explicit in terms of what is my role, what is your role.
Yeah.
And I think I had to be comfortable enough with them right from the interview process in order to let them flourish rather than thinking, but there were times when I'd kind of think, I'm sick of hearing about Susan and Emma and Anna, do you know, like, do you know, like, and the times when Craig got busy and our coffee planning meeting dropped out of his calendar, I could start to resent them. I had to be really careful to think, no, I need to resent him, not resent them. But work really hard at trusting them.
Yes.
We've got another question. How do you think being church planters affects your family dynamic? And would it be possible to be an effective church planting wife with a large family?
Yes.
I can't see why not.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I mean, I've got 3 kids.
Which I think is a large family.
Depends on your definition.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, like our oldest is 7, and I feel like we've only been through kind of the baby, toddler, now we're heading into primary school kind of years. And I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, but no matter how many kids you have, there's life phases are challenging anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like I mean, maybe if you have 20 kids, that could be challenging.
It become more complex.
But I think in terms of size of your family, it might just mean you're in certain phases for a longer period of time, which might mean that you're not able to do the things in terms of ministry that you want to do until a certain longer period of time.
Someone once told me that if you have like a baby, actually I have a friend who has a baby, someone just starting high school, and then someone who's just starting uni, and so having little people who aren't little anymore, across a wide range is one of the most stressful things, because you're not in any stage, you're in so many at once, and they pull at you in different ways, so that is a really difficult, and also a wonderful blessing, but
I think at Blacktown, my kids were little. We left when they were 5 and 6. Church was just so much fun for them because there were heaps of other toddlers. The church grew with them, and so I think they had an enormous amount of fun. We then moved to Drummoyne, and they were the vanguard in terms of they were the oldest right through the whole time that we were church planting, which I think is quite common. But they never had a peer group at church the whole time we were there.
Was much harder.
But they had a sense of what the gospel is. The gospel is living as missionaries for Jesus. Do you know, like in whatever context you're in? But we worked hard. We sent them off to Gladesville Anglican and West Ryde Baptist for youth group, and do you know, like thought creatively about ways they could have a peer group. When we were at Blacktown, I read this book about how, you know, kids shouldn't be, sacrificed on the altar of your gospel ministry, and that you should have one Sunday a week when you don't do hospitality, blah, blah, blah. And so we went, oh, wow, we're really rebuked by that because the kids are just being swept along in the tide. And I remember that the kids were standing with this glass panel next to the door, and both of them are toddlers, and they're standing with their faces pressed against the glass going, where are the people? Where are the people? And we said, we're having a special Sunday with no visitors. And they went, oh! But then when the kids were a bit older at Drummoyne, the doorbell once went, and one of my kids just dived under their homework table, and we had a conversation with them, and the upshot was that Craig said to the elders, we're not going to have any more groups in our home because it's freaking out one of our kids. And I think that really spoke to our kids to say, it's not that Dad's not going to be in a home group and leading, but he's not going to do it in my house. That makes me feel really loved. So I think it's that creativity of being sensitive to what particular kids need. So in a sense, at Blacktown, it was
different stages.
so at Blacktown, not having people over made our kids sad. And then at Drummoyne, when they were kind of moving into the teenage years, if they resented having people coming in and breaking all their stuff, and to say, well, we'll just move stuff off site. And so after 12 months, checked in with that kid, do you want still to be yes, I would love that. And so, and there were people do you know, who were really confused and a bit hacked off about why we weren't having people in our home, and we just said we're not doing it.
Yeah.
So I think to communicate to your kids that they aren't the most important person in the world, but they're more important than the people at church.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, so the gospel is more important than them.
Yeah.
Oh, I really don't want to make it a hierarchy, but do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but it's not that every other family comes ahead of our family all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know, like,
I think, like you said, that checking in kind of, and as I feel like change is always going to happen, but each kind of age or stage of like church life or like kids' life or whatever, just kind of going, all right, what does life look like?
But I don't think there are rules for it though.
Oh, no.
Do you know what I mean? And I think how one family does it could be very different to how another chooses to do it.
Yeah.
But I think the more kids you've got, the more you've got individual children.
Yes.
So playing that would be really interesting.
Yes.
And I think kids, if you're a Buddhist, I reckon your kids would rebel against Buddhism just to see how much you love them. Do you know, like, I think, and so kids, both of my kids at different times have pushed back on, do we really have to play ball with this Christian stuff? And really it's, you know, what could I do that would stop you loving me? Do you know, like...
Yeah. How far?
Yeah, and so I think that's the tricky thing, but that would be hard whether it's church planting or big church.
Yeah.
But I think as well, church planting is quite fun in that when it's tiny and your kids are the only kids, you basically do the stuff that they like doing. So if they like origami, surprise, surprise, you do origami every week at kids' church because your kids like it. You know, like there's ways you can actually make it work for them. And my kids resented the fact that there were lots of new kids coming. Do you know, like at different points. So careful what you wish for. But yeah.
So another question we had just very quickly, because we need to finish up soon, is have you got any tips when Sundays you do church and then you only have a short time for lunch but you're trying to do hospitality? Any tips for how to do that quickly?
We have church.
If you are having it in your home at the time. Yeah.
We have church in the afternoons, which I vote for church in the afternoon. I'd much rather have a slower day on a Sunday. But we often did a lot more evenings, like Friday nights or Saturday nights. We'd have people over for dinner or...
So it's at a separate day on a separate day?
Yeah. I think we found that Sundays are so big, and often Dan is trying to finish up sermon prep, or he's got an earlier meeting before church, and so just for my sake, it's much better to have a slow Sunday, kind of slow in the morning, do lunch, and then be like, all right, let's get ready for church and be on. So we often, if we would have people around, it would be often in an evening. So that's what we'd find.
We've done different things at different times, and I think one of the things we did towards the end of Des Moines when the kids were teenagers is we'd say to people, feel free to come back to our place, bring some food if you want to, but we'll chuck you out by something o'clock. And quite a lot of people were comfortable with that, knowing it was going to be a short, sharp lunch off your pop.
So you've said it before. Yeah. All right, well, we're running out of time, but I just thought I'd ask...
Is there one more question that we need to do, or do you want to do a different one?
Well, I was going to ask you some of the particular blessings that you found of being a church planter.
I think growing with a little band of people that are really all on board is really exciting. I find the whole idea of moving, like I watch friends who are not church planters but church leaders going to a ready-made church of 100, and I think that would be terrifying. I don't know how you'd do that if quite a lot of those people weren't Christian, or, do you know, like, but felt that they were stakeholders. That would be, so I just think it's really fun and exciting to kind of have a crack at something crazy, do you know, like, and see where it goes with a little band of brothers and sisters is really fun.
I think one thing for me, which I think I've wrestled with over the last couple of years, was that, is this Dan's thing, is this him and church's thing, and I'm just kind of along for the ride, but I feel like it's been really nice to come to a conclusion, like, this is my thing, this is our thing that we're doing together. We wouldn't be doing anything else. So, like, it's a real privilege to be able to be a part of church ministry and a church plant, and so it's my thing as much as it is his thing, and we just have to work out what that looks like from, month to month, year to year. But I feel like it's nice to have that purpose and goal and thing that we together are working towards. So yeah, it's been.
And also, I reckon church plants, you see lots of people converted. You see lots of people go through hard times, blah, blah, blah. But I think unlike other churches where it's about feeding the saints, do you know, like, but you don't see that much conversion. I think by definition we're on about not just shuffling the deck chairs, but actually seeing people converted, not just sucking them from other places. It's always just this, it astonishes me every single time, and I know it shouldn't. I go, oh, wow, people actually believe that Jesus died and rose again, and it changes things. Do you know, like, it always shocks me when someone kind of goes, yeah, I'd like to pray that. You kind of go, oh, really? Oh, okay. You know, it always shocks me, but it's just such a great privilege to be there when a little baby Christian is minted newly, do you know, like, and watching them be so excited, and that makes me excited.
So you have front row seats as the church plant to that kind of.
And also the sadness of people rejecting it. But how cool is that?
So, and it's also as they grow over the years as well, you have front row seats to that as
and watching them bring their friends and
great. Well, it's been lovely spending time with you two this morning, and hope you've all enjoyed that as well. So make sure you look at what the next webinar is for next month. It's on being how to reach and plant in regional Australia. So Bruce Bennett, Paul Shealy and Ross Petherbridge will answer your questions. So you'll be able to sign up for that soon. And just before we finish, I'd just like to thank our sponsor again, EA Insurance. Have a good day, everyone.